What are you working on right now?
So right now I'm doing a book about basketball. It's my first nonfiction graphic novel. It's about a high school team out of Oakland. It's the team of the school where I used to teach. They're called the Bishop O'Dowd Dragons. I got to know the head coach. His name is Lou Ritchie, and he's the first African-American head coach of the men's team at Bishop O'Dowd. It's my first nonfiction.
Yeah, what's that like doing the nonfiction?
It's been really nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Because there's this question, like when you're drawing, you're automatically lying at a certain level because nothing actually looks the way you drew it. At least for me, because I have a relatively cartoony style.
Yeah.
So it just it brings up all sorts of questions about, like how close should I stay?
And then how do you differentiate them in a cartoony style? That stuff, right?
Exactly.
And this one must have been really tricky because you have your family in the book.
Yeah, my family's in the book, and then the kids are minors. And
did you have to approve everything with your wife, whenever she was on the page?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
I show her, and she's like, "I wouldn't say that." I said, "You said something like that." So especially the scenes with my wife.
Yeah.
I did take some liberties. So I would with a lot of what happened with the players and the coaches, I recorded, and then I would transcribe the recordings, and then I would pull the dialogue out of those transcriptions. Wow. But with my wife, it would just be me recreating conversations
that
I remember us having because I didn't record them.
Right.
And then often it wouldn't be one conversation, right? It'd be like a summary of a bunch of conversations we had.
Got it. Did you ever think you would do a comic about basketball?
No, heck no. If you had told me 3 years ago, no, not 3 years ago, I was already working on this. If you had told me a year before I started that I was going to make a book about basketball, I wouldn't have believed you.
That's crazy because it's so much work.
It's so much work. Yeah, I can't believe I did it, or I'm doing it. It's so crazy. And the other thing is that because I didn't really grow up with the game, I feel really unsure about certain parts of the book. Whether the hands are right or whether, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. Whether the players are standing in the right spots on the court. I feel really uncertain about a lot of the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you a little bit afraid that maybe huge fans of basketball will pick it apart?
Yeah, I'm sure that'll happen. I was worried about that, so I did Boxers and Saints, which is about the Boxer Rebellion, and I was worried that experts in the Boxer Rebellion would call me on things that I got wrong, and that totally happened. So I expect that to happen, maybe even more with this book. Well, the point of the book, I think the immediate driver of the book is Lou going to actually redeem this old hurt, right? But as I was working on it, it actually became more. I ended up as a character in the book, and I think it became more about stepping out in the face of uncertainty. One of the things that really struck me during this season of following this basketball team is the difference between basketball and comics. And I think one of the big differences is that with comics, at the beginning of your narrative, you kind of know how it's going to end, right? Like with a superhero comic, with Superman, you kind of know that no matter what, Superman's going to win at the end. But with basketball, it is just not like that. At the beginning of that season, I had no idea whether or not they would even make it to the state championship. And at the beginning of every game, even if it feels mismatched, even if it feels like one team is just way better than the other, you really have no idea who's actually going to win, right? Anything can happen. So there's a certain level of uncertainty that I think a basketball player has to deal with that a comic book writer doesn't.
I think that's why a lot of people prefer sports over narratives, actually. A lot of people, they don't like movies, especially comics. There's a lot of people who don't even ever pick up a comic. But I think it's because I've heard somebody say this, somebody wrote this. I know somebody wrote this. You know what I mean? So they can't hook into it as much.
So they can't hook into it.
Yeah,
I can see that. I kind of get that. I kind of get where they're coming from. I do follow basketball now. I feel like I'm not an expert. I can't, when I'm watching a game, I can't explain to you what's happening and why all the time. But I do understand why people find it so exciting. And I do get, I just also think that basketball occupies this very interesting place in American culture, because it's it began as like the sport of the underdog. It began as almost like the sport of the losers, if you were not rich enough and established enough to be able to afford a field, you played basketball. And I just thought, like as I looked into the sport, that became really interesting to me.
Did you feel like there was a parallel there to comics as well? Because comics is also a medium.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that, but you're right. You're right. It's all the same thing, right? The equipment that's required is just so easy to get. The bar is so low. There's really no gatekeepers.
It's true. You don't need a racket. You don't need
a racket.
You just need a ball from Kmart and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because the courts are everywhere.
Yeah, courts are everywhere. You can just use the bucket, like an actual bucket as the basket.
Yeah, in comics you just need typing paper and some pencils.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Are there any other sports like that?
I mean, I've heard soccer's a little bit like that, right? Soccer's a little bit like that.
That's why it's so universal.
Yeah.
But even that, you do need that goal and a huge.
You do
field.
need the goal. Yeah, the field is the tricky part.
Yeah.
I think fields are very expensive to maintain.
You're right. So basketball is.
Yeah.
Really